Let's begin by setting up our call count, the number of technicians, and the working days. This will help us realistically determine how much revenue we can generate based on our available resources and working days. Here, you'll notice the section for service and the number of technicians. Consider how many trucks you have on the road for service calls, excluding the installation vehicles. We're focusing on service vehicles involved in service calls, where they are expected to collect revenue. If you have a staff member who exclusively handles parts, they shouldn't be included here. We want to focus on those who generate revenue, not just handle collections. This section is specifically for service technicians, not installers. Include your service team here. For example, in the past, we have, due to seasonal variations, you might run with 4 technicians during the off-season and increase to 6 during busier times. You could average this to 5 technicians for accuracy or aim for 6 techs throughout the year. That's how you determine this aspect. Next, we need to determine how many calls these technicians can handle per day. These should be revenue-generating calls, such as those for no heating or no AC issues. Preventative maintenance checks are included here, as we expect technicians in residential areas to upsell improvements during these calls. Return visits or callbacks are not counted. We're focusing on calls that generate revenue. Now, for working days, the average is usually around 260. You can adjust this as needed, including weekends if you prefer. Personally, I find it more effective not to include weekends, even if we do work them. This way, we focus on meeting revenue targets during the weekdays, using weekends as opportunities to catch up or get ahead. But adjust this to suit your needs. We've used 261 working days, and it worked well for us. This number helps calculate daily dispatch calls and provides a yearly target. Pass this information to your CSR department to ensure they fill the schedule effectively. The CSR department will use this call count to establish weekly, daily, and monthly targets, enabling you to track progress and adjust as needed. This approach will help you stay aligned with your call targets. Additionally, the goal is for the CSR to fill the board with a certain number of calls each day. We'll determine that number here, and on the installation side, that derives from sales. For sales, if you're utilizing service techs to generate leads, you'll need to account for your sales team here, typically 2 salespeople. We also need to decide how many calls per day they should handle. We average this at 1.5 calls per day, acknowledging that it might not always be 2 each day. Examine your historical data to determine how many leads were run throughout the year and how that breaks down daily. Using historical data, rather than hopeful projections, will provide a more accurate basis for planning. You can always refine these numbers as you gather more data and adjust strategies. Feel free to tweak the setup to establish new goals, but it's advisable to start with historical data. Currently, we're aiming to run 3 leads a day. Consider the number of leads per year, and keep in mind that sales might have fewer working days. Sales teams might receive more holidays. If you're using selling technicians, average their contribution accordingly. For example, a selling tech might be considered as a quarter of a full-time salesperson. Calculate this based on the number of sales calls pitching new equipment by selling techs and average it in. If you handle commercial accounts, apply the same principles and adjust accordingly. That wraps up the call setup screen. Hopefully, this simplifies the process for you. One last reminder. Factor in working days considering holidays and such. If your team is entitled to a week of vacation, subtract 5 days from your working days count. Don't overlook vacations when planning. Remember, even with sick days, you might want to maintain your targets. How you account for these is up to you. That's how you utilize the call setup screen effectively. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Looking forward to seeing you in the next session.